It is the ghost that has haunted the hit would never happen. For years, the concept of Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano was nothing more than a fantasy, a what-if scenario debated in forums and barbershops, usually ending with the realization that time had simply marched on. But the landscape of combat sports has shifted beneath our feet once again, in a move that feels like a collision between the golden era of women's MMA and the modern streaming wars. The impossible has been confirmed. Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, the Intuit Dome, and they aren't doing it in the UFC. They are joining forces with Jake Paul's most valuable promotions to headline the first ever live MMA event on Netflix. This is not just a fight announcement, it is a resurrection. We are looking at two of the most significant pillars in the history of combat sports returning from the wilderness. Ronda Rousey, the woman who forced the world to pay attention to female fighters, hasn't stepped foot in a cage since that cold December night in 2016 when Amanda Nunes shattered her reality in 48 seconds. Gina Carano, the original face of the sport, has been gone even longer, a ghost of the cage since 2009. Why now? Why them? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all, can they still fight? To understand the magnitude of this, we have to strip away the years of WWE stints, Hollywood movies, and internet noise. We have to go back to the blood and the bone. We have to look at how these two women didn't just exist in the sport. They created the very floor that today's fighters walk on. Let's start with the rowdy one. To a modern fan who maybe only saw her professional wrestling run or the memes following the Holly Holm loss, it is easy to forget that Ronda Rousey was not just a champion, she was a phenomenon. She was the Mike Tyson of the female division. There was a time when the question wasn't if Ronda would win, but if the fight would last longer than a GIF. She brought a level of judo excellence that the sport had never seen, and, frankly, hasn't seen since. Her armbar was inevitable. It didn't matter if you knew it was coming. She would find it. She would launch women through the air with hip tosses that looked like choreographed violence, but were painfully real. But the end of Ronda's career was a tragedy in two acts. First, the head kick from Holly Holm in Melbourne that was heard around the world. It wasn't just a knockout, it was the destruction of an aura of invincibility. Then came the silence. A year of hiding, of recovery, of media blackouts, and then the return against Amanda Nunes. We all remember the hope. We all remember the intense stare down. And we all remember the rigidness, the lack of head movement, the way she looked frozen. 48 seconds. That was it. She walked out of the T-Mobile Arena and effectively vanished from the sport she popularized. For 10 years, the narrative on Ronda Rousey has been written by her critics. They say she couldn't take a loss. They say she was a sore loser. This fight offers her something that WrestleMania never could, a chance to rewrite the final chapter. This isn't scripted. There are no writers in the back determining the finish. Ronda is stepping back into the fire. We know she has stayed athletic. Her time in sports entertainment proved she can still take a bump and move her body. But MMA cardio is different. MMA pressure is different, and getting punched in the face for real is a sensation you cannot replicate in a performance center. On the other side of the cage, we have the original, Gina Carano, conviction. If Ronda was the Tyson, Gina was the De La Hoya, the golden girl who brought legitimacy and eyes to a sport that was still being fought in smoky arenas and struggling for mainstream acceptance. Gina was the star of Elite XC and Strikeforce. She was a Muay Thai specialist in a world of brawlers. She had grace, she had power, and she had a presence that captivated millions. But Gina's exit was even more abrupt than Ronda's. August 2009, Chris Cyborg. It was the first time two women headlined a major card. Gina was the favorite in the eyes of the public, but Cyborg was a machine of a different caliber. The stoppage was brutal. Gina left the cage that night and never returned. She pivoted to Hollywood, starring in Haywire, Fast and Furious, and eventually landing a massive role in The Mandalorian. For a while, it seemed she had won the game of life, using fighting as a stepping stone to global stardom. But we know how that story went. Controversy, social media posts, a high-profile firing, and a lawsuit against Disney. Gina Carano has felt the weight of public scrutiny just as Ronda has, albeit in a very different arena. In a way, both of these women are outcasts returning to the sanctuary of violence. They are two queens in exile, meeting on neutral ground to settle a score that should have been settled a decade ago. The connection to Jake Paul and Netflix is the variable that changes everything. 10 years ago, this fight would have been on UFC 180 or in the same way. Enter Jake Paul. Love him or hate him, the man understands the spectacle. He understands that combat sports in this era is about narrative tension and capturing the casual viewer. By partnering with Netflix, this fight bypasses the traditional pay-per-view model entirely. This isn't about selling 500,000 buys at $80. This is about putting two of the most famous women on the planet in front of 200 million subscribers. It is a play for attention, for cultural dominance, and for legacy. Now, let's get technical, because once the cage door locks, the subscriber count doesn't matter. The movie deals don't matter. The legacy doesn't matter. It comes down to skills, conditioning, and chin. This fight is contested at 145 pounds, featherweight. This is a crucial detail. Ronda Rousey spent her championship reign at 135 pounds. She was a big bantamweight, but she always made the weight. Gina Carano, historically, struggled with the scale. She fought at 140, 145, and even missed weight in her career. For Gina, 145 is comfortable. It's her natural home. For Ronda, this means she doesn't have to deplete herself, but it also means she is fighting a bigger woman. In the clinch, where Ronda does her best work, size matters. Gina Carano is a dense, powerful striker. She is not easy to bully. The stylistic matchup is the classic grappler versus striker, but with a layer of rust that is inches thick. Ronda's path to victory has always been clear. Close the distance, initiate the clinch, hit the throw, secure the arm. It is a sequence she has drilled since she was a child. Judo is muscle memory. Even after 10 years, if Ronda grabs a collar tie, her body knows what to do. The hips will engage, the leverage will appear, and gravity will take over. If this fight hits the mat, Gina is in a world of trouble. Gina was never known for her elite jiu-jitsu. She was a survivor on the ground, but she wasn't a wizard. Against an Olympian, survival is rarely enough. However, Ronda has to get there, and this is where the ghosts of Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes appear. Ronda's striking defense was porous at her peak. She relied on aggression to mask her defensive flaws. She walked forward with her head on the center line, eating shots to give one back or to grab a hold. At her current age, reflexes do not improve. The chin does not get stronger. Gina Carano, despite the long layoff, was a technically sound striker. She had a stiff jab, a powerful right hand, and legitimate Muay Thai knees. If Gina has kept any semblance of her timing, she can hurt Ronda. We have to talk about the flinch. In Ronda's last two fights, she looked terrified of getting hit. The confidence was gone. When Amanda Nunes popped her with that first jab, Ronda's entire demeanor crumbled. She panicked. Has she fixed that? Can you fix that after 10 years away? Or will the first clean punch from Gina trigger that same trauma response? On the flip side, Gina hasn't taken a punch in anger since 2009. That is 17 years. Let that sink in. 17 years. There are fighters on the active roster today who were in diapers when Gina Carano last fought. Ring rust is real. The timing, the distance management, the adrenaline dump. These are things you cannot simulate in a gym. Gina might look fantastic hitting pads, she might look strong lifting weights, but when a human being is trying to break your arm, the cardiovascular system reacts differently. Will her gas tank hold up for 5 rounds? The fight is scheduled for 5 rounds, 5 minutes each. That is 25 minutes of combat. If both women gas out after the first round, this super fight could turn into a sloppy, desperate brawl very quickly. But there is a factor here that goes beyond the physical. It is the mental fortitude. Ronda Rousey is an intense competitor. Her drive for perfection borders on obsession. We've seen her break mentally when things don't go her way, but we've also seen her grind through adversity in her judo career. Gina Carano has always been the more stoic figure. She fights with a certain calmness, but does she have the killer instinct left? She has lived a comfortable life. She hasn't needed to fight for survival. Ronda, in her mind, always fights for survival. She fights as if her worth as a human being is on the line. That kind of pressure can break you, or it can make you dangerous. Let's look at the venue and the atmosphere. The Intuit Dome. This is a massive stage. For Netflix, this is a test run for the future of sports broadcasting. They need this to deliver. They don't just need a fight, they need a moment. The production value will be unlike anything we see in the UFC. Expect cinematic lighting, different camera angles, perhaps access to the corners that we've never had before. Jake Paul's influence suggests we might see a spectacle-heavy undercard, maybe influencers, maybe crossover athletes, all designed to build the hype for the main event. But when the bell rings, the spectacle fades. It will be just Ronda and Gina, two pioneers, two survivors. There is a fascinating historical footnote here. Back in 2014, Dana White famously claimed he was incredibly close to signing Gina Carano to fight Ronda. The rumor was that it would happen at UFC 181. Negotiations stalled. Gina wanted more time. The UFC wanted it now. The moment passed. For years, fans debated who would have won Prime versus Prime. Ronda was the submission specialist. Gina was the striker. Most analysts favored Ronda back then because her judo was solving every puzzle put in front of her. But now, the variables are wild. Ronda's knees have always been an issue. She has had multiple surgeries. Or will she revert to the same flailing hooks that got her in trouble against Holm? If she comes out trying to box Gina Carano to prove a point, she will lose. She has to be Ronda the judoka, not Ronda the boxer. Gina has the advantage of mystery. We haven't seen her train in a decade. We don't know who her coaches are yet. Is she at Extreme Couture? Is she back at Jackson Wink? Is she training in a private facility? If she's been smart, she has been working on her takedown defense exclusively. Sprawl and brawl. That is the game plan. Keep Ronda at the end of the jab, circle away from the clinch, and punish her for coming in straight. If Gina can keep this fight standing for the first 5 minutes, the momentum shifts heavily in her favor. Ronda is a sprinter. She finishes fights early. If she can't get the finish in round 1 and she's breathing heavy and Gina is still popping that jab, the doubt will creep in. The reception from the MMA community has been mixed. As expected, the purists are calling it a freak show. They say these women are past their prime, that this holds up the division, that it's a cash grab. And they aren't entirely wrong. This isn't about rankings. This isn't about the future of the featherweight division. This is a legacy fight. It's in the same vein as Tyson versus Jones Jr. But to dismiss it as just a freak show is to ignore the history. These two women matter. Seeing them compete, even at diminished capacities, is a closure that the sport deserves. And let's be honest about the Jake Paul effect. By placing this on Netflix, the barrier to entry is zero for millions of people. You don't have to seek out a pirated stream or pay $80. You just open the app. The viewership numbers for this could dwarf any UFC event in history purely based on accessibility. If 50 million people tune in to watch Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano, it proves that star power is still the most valuable currency in the fight game. It sends a message to the UFC that the old guard still has value and that the streaming model is the inevitable future. So, what happens when they finally meet? Scenario A is the armbar. Ronda comes out like a bull. She eats a punch to get the clinch. She tosses Gina, scramble, armbar, tap. The whole thing takes 90 seconds. Ronda cries. The crowd goes wild. It's 2013 all over again. Scenario B is the upset. Ronda rushes in. Gina pivots. A clean right hand lands. Ronda freezes. Gina swarms. TKO. The redemption arc for Gina is complete. She defeats the woman who took her spot as the face of the sport. Scenario C is the war. They are both slower, yes, but they are tough. The fight goes into the 3rd, 4th rounds. It becomes a battle of will. Ronda is trying to drag it down. Gina is trying to keep it up. Both are exhausted. It becomes ugly, gritty, and emotional, and it goes to the judges. Regardless of the outcome, the image of Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano facing off in the center of the cage is powerful. It represents a bridge between generations. It reminds us of the time when women fighting in a cage was considered unwatchable by the establishment, until these two forced the world to watch. We must also consider the psychological aspect of the comeback. For Ronda, this is about erasing the humiliation of her exit. She wants her hand raised one last time. She wants to leave on her own terms, not as the victim of a highlight reel knockout. For Gina, this is about reclaiming her identity as a fighter. Hollywood is fickle. The cage is honest. In the cage, there is no CGI. There are no PR statements. There is only the truth. There is also a financial reality here that cannot be ignored. The purses for this fight are likely astronomical. Netflix has deep pockets. This is likely the biggest payday of both women's careers. And that motivation, financial security for generations, can push a fighter through a grueling training camp. But money doesn't help you when the cage door shuts. Money doesn't stop a liver kick. The build-up to this fight is going to be fascinating. Will we see the brash, arrogant Ronda of old, or a humbled, mature martial artist? Will Gina engage in trash talk, or will she remain the girl-next-door assassin? The dynamic between them has always been respectful. Ronda has cited Gina as her inspiration. Gina has acknowledged Ronda's dominance. But respect often goes out the window when you sign the contract. The media tours, the Netflix, documentaries, leading up to the fight, we are going to see every angle of their lives. We will see the farm life of Ronda, the Hollywood struggles of Gina. It will be a narrative masterpiece. But as fight fans, we must temper our expectations. We are not watching the 2015 Ronda or the 2008 Gina. We are watching two legends in their twilight. The technique might be a step slower, the explosions might be less dynamic, but the stakes are higher than ever, because when you come back after this long, you are risking your legacy. If Ronda comes back and looks terrible, the critics win forever. If Gina comes back and gets steamrolled, her pioneering status takes a hit. They are gambling with their history. And what of the undercard? Jake Paul has promised the biggest women's combat sports card in history. Rumors are swirling about other legends returning, or perhaps top-tier boxers crossing over. The possibilities with Netflix money are endless. This isn't just a main event. It is a festival of violence. Let's focus back on the shocking nature of this. Why is it shocking? Because we thought they were done. We accepted they were done. We moved on. The shock comes from the realization that the fighter's fire never truly goes out. It just smolders. It waits for the right wind to fan it back into a flame. Jake Paul provided that wind. Netflix provided the fuel. The 145-pound weight class is also a sanctuary for this fight. The UFC's women's featherweight division is essentially dead. Bellator's is on life support. By holding this at 145, they avoid the title picture politics. This is an exhibition of greatness, not a climb up the rankings. It stands alone, a monolith event. If you are a betting person, where do you put your money? The smart money usually favors the younger fighter and the one who has fought more recently. On paper, Ronda should win. She has competed at a higher level more recently. She has been an active athlete in WWE, but the mental game is the great equalizer. Gina has nothing to lose. She is the underdog. She is expected to lose. Ronda has everything to lose. The pressure on her is crushing, and we know that pressure cracks Ronda Rousey. Imagine the walkouts. The music hits. Bad Reputation by Joan Jett blasts through the speakers. Ronda stomps to the cage, that iconic scowl on her face. The crowd erupts. Then, Gina's music hits. The pioneer returns. The atmosphere will be electric. It will be a moment where time stands still. And then, the referee asks, "Are you ready?" Let's dig deeper into the judo versus Muay Thai dynamic. Ronda's Harai Goshi is legendary, but it requires an underhook or a whizzer. Gina's Muay Thai clinch is designed to prevent exactly that. The Thai plum, the double collar tie, controls the posture. If Gina can control Ronda's head, she kills the hips. If Ronda can't engage her hips, she can't throw. This is the battle within the battle. Watch for the hand fighting. Watch for who controls the center. Ronda's stance is often very square. This makes her vulnerable to leg kicks. Gina has powerful kicks. If she starts chopping at Ronda's lead leg, she can take away the explosiveness needed for the takedowns. A mesmerizing kicker against a grappler who stands heavy on the front leg. It's a recipe for a leg kick clinic, but every time Gina kicks, she risks being caught. It's a game of Russian roulette. Kick the leg, risk the takedown. Don't kick, risk getting rushed. And what about the ground and pound? Ronda was never a vicious ground and pounder. She hunted the submission. But Gina? If Gina gets on top, she strikes. She is mean from the top position. If by some miracle Gina reverses a takedown and ends up in Ronda's guard. The dynamic shifts wildly. Ronda's bottom game relies on arm bars and triangles. Gina needs to posture up and rain down shots. We must also touch on the Netflix curse, or Netflix bump. Live events on Netflix have had technical issues in the past. Imagine the stream buffering right as Ronda goes for the armbar. The internet would melt down. But assuming the tech holds, the reach is unprecedented. This could inspire a whole new generation of girls to pick up gloves, just like they did in 2013. In the end, this fight is a celebration. It's a celebration of how far women's MMA has come. From the kitchen comments to headlining the biggest streaming platform on earth, Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano took the arrows so the women of today could walk the path. They bled so others could get paid. So, on fight night, put aside the cynicism. Put aside the analysis of ring rust and age. Just enjoy the moment, because we will likely never see anything like this again. Two icons, one cage. The final chapter. This is the reality of the fight game. It pulls you back in. Just when you think you're out, it pulls you back in. And for Ronda and Gina, the pull was too strong to resist. The octagon is a canvas, and they have one last masterpiece to paint. It might be messy, it might be bloody, it might be short, but it will be theirs. Prepare yourselves. The queens are back, and the kingdom is watching.